welcome to my channel. I am GDP, and before we get started, I would appreciate if you guys hit that like and subscribe button down below for the YouTube algorithm. Today I'm going to be releasing kind of my initial thoughts onto Flora. I'm actually not going to be showing like any PvP footage of this. I'm just going to be purely talking about the hero, discussing path forward on the uses for this hero, and what needs to be done to this hero in the future. But as a tradition, as always, I always go ahead and read the skills starting from the last passive. So starting from here, we got natural selection. When attacked by an active skills or basic attacks, Flora reduces the attacker's all damage dealt by 10%, can stack up to 30%, while increasing self 15% of attack for 4 rounds. This ability would be really good if we were in kind of a sustained meta right now, but currently we are not. Currently, we are in a meta where it's hyper bursty, at least in the end game right now, where rounds are ending, or the fights are ending in round 2 to 4, maybe going to round 5. So this natural selection really doesn't get stacked up enough for it to become useful. So I don't really see a use for this in the end game meta right now. This is not where her ability to be able to perform in the end game meta would come into play unless the meta shifted into a longer duration, where we are looking at matches that go into round 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's kind of when this natural selection could come into use. It is possible that if you stacked a bunch of Floras, that you'll be able to get all that attackers, all damage dealt, stacked up really quickly. But right now, if you have a solo Flora in the end game meta, this natural selection is not really going to be too much of a use, especially since you can't really target where a enemy is hitting, because most end game meta heroes right now are either a random attack, so they just hit randomly. There's no priority. There's no slot 1. There's no nothing. They're B, their lowest HP hitting, like Rogan's, Sword Flash Shia, Russell, Drake. Those are all low HP. Or they're like low attack, or I mean high attack, like Tix. Tix is in the meta, so that's the other option right there. But other than that, they're not hitting slot 1s. There's no way to like say, oh, they're gonna hit the back line, or oh, they're gonna hit the front line, unless it's like an Amon Ra. But Amon Ra's are kind of not really in the meta right now. They're kind of like a side hero that just is situational. Terras, they're out of the meta. They don't hit the slot, so the slot 1 not really matter for Terra. So right now it's random hit, high attack, or low HP. So natural selection right now is not really useful. Then we go into our next passive here, Toxic Vine. Toxic Vine is basic attack, targets 2 random enemies, dealing 160% of attack damage and poisoning the target by 15% of the target's max HP for 2 rounds, capping at 1500% of Flora's attack, and at the same time continuously heals herself by 15% of max HP for 2 rounds. Obviously, it's a poison dot. I'm not going to read that last part. So for this passive right here, since it is a max HP, this means it is going to be not affected by any sort of damage boost. So like an Antler's Cane, it's not going to boost it. Your pet's damage increase is not going to boost it. It's basically just going to be true damage based off of max HP. So it's not going to be able to get ignored by damage reduce. You're going to have to use all DR to reduce this. I can prove this a little bit later on in the video. At the same time, it also continuously heals her at 15% of max HP for 2 rounds. So it gives her a little bit of sustain. I've had issues with her just getting straight up bursted and just dying right away from like a carry active, carry DM. So she is a little bit squishy in that regard. So I mean, she does have this heal here that will help her, as I said, into that sustained meta if that ever happened, where you're able to, give her a couple like a crown or something. I don't know where you'll be able to sustain her, but right now, this basic attack really doesn't stand out to me in the PvP meta. If you have already seen in my Delacium Army video, it does kind of work in the Delacium Army. Her damage is kind of in the Nakia range, probably a little bit better than Nakia in a Delacium Army. So she is probably, I would say, the second best dot hero in the game for the Delacium Army. But if you're going to build the Delacium Army, you're going to go with a Thaqua. So I don't see a reason building her for the Delacium Army. You're going to go with a Thaqua if you're going to do that. And if we're talking about pure PvE damage, she is probably in the realms of anywhere of 12 to 20 billion in a boost comp. So she actually does a decent amount of PvE damage. So she actually is a pretty solid PvE hero. She does similar damage to Gruda, I would say. So yeah, so it's not like absolutely terrible. She's pretty useful in that area, but once again, are you gonna build this hero for PvE? No, I don't think so. Her kit is geared towards more for PvP, and then have a side use of PvE. But once again, her PvP usefulness, at least right now in the endgame meta, not really there. Then you got her Blessing of Nature. It gives her attack multiplier, HP multiplier, crit multiplier, and speed multiplier. So one thing, what do we notice here? No damage reduce and no control immunity. So maybe when she gets void touched and she gains control immunity and damage reduction, she become a little bit more tankier. But this means that she's gonna get doved a lot. She can get CC'd by a Horrify from a Tix or a Silence. So that is a huge downfall on her, in my opinion, that she has no natural CI or natural DR. That is, I think, a terrible move for design of a new hero. I think all new heroes should at least have one of them, either DR or control immunity. If they have both, that's like really, 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 really good. But I think a requirement in new heroes should have at least damage reduction or control immunity. So once again, a little bit disappointed by this passive right here. It gives her a bunch of attack, it gives her a bunch of HP, it gives her some crit and speed, but that right there is not enough to make her tanky enough and resistant to CC. So a little bit of unfortunate on that side. And then we got our active here. Flora guides her Pixie to attack a random enemy, dealing 400% of attack damage with a 30% chance to twine the target for 2 rounds. After that, the Pixie will bounce them on random enemies 5 times, each time increasing the damage dealt by 100% of attack and chance to twine by 5%. The Pixie won't combo attack the same target 2 times in a row, and then twine, CC. I'm not gonna read that part. So this active right here, a little bit underwhelming in the CC department, I would say. Personally, I can't truly test this yet without my upgraded Rui Scepter. Right now, I only have a regular Rui Scepter until next Ormus event, which is next week. So this is why I call this an initial review, because maybe the Splendid Rui Scepter will make this a little bit more useful in the endgame meta. But at least right now, with a regular Rui Scepter, it's not. Starting off on the first hit, it starts off at 30%, then it goes to 35, 40, 45, 50. If you have the Rui Scepter, it's going to go from, I believe it's 36.5%, no, 45 52.5, 60, 67.5, 75, and then 82.5% CC. So the last couple hits are actually really high chance to CC. So I do believe with a upgraded Receptor, you're gonna get probably 2 to 3 times twines, maybe on each active. You might only get one, but I do believe if they wanted to change this hero, I do believe buffing her CC chance, starting it off at like maybe 50% might be a lot better. So it goes 50, 55, 60, 65, 70, 75, 80, or up to 75. And then basically, once you have the Receptor, it's going to go pretty much to 100% chance. I do think that is probably the best bet for them to make this hero into the endgame meta is to buff her CC chance. I think that will actually do a lot for her, but right now, the CC is too low, too unstable, not really doing what I would like it to do. And then her damage goes from 400, 500, 600, 700, 800, 900%. Yeah, it's a decent amount of damage, but once again, she doesn't have a whole lot of attack if you're building her for the CC, which I believe is her going to be her main use in game PvP is for that CC. So once again, kind of falling short here just because of that twine low chance. And then you also got the fact that if she does twine someone, you got to make sure she's twining someone before they attack, so it locks them out. Because if she twines them after they attack in round one, they're just gonna purify it for round two, and they're gonna be free for round two. Unless you have a bunch of debuffs going out, and you have like another way to do to like kind of prevent the purify from purifying twine. But in the endgame meta right now, there's not a whole lot of debuffs, so they're gonna purify out of that twine, or they're gonna purify out of their poison that's on their basic. So it's kind of a hit or miss. Does this hero get my stamp of approval? At least solo? No. This hero is, at least in my mind right now, considered Chinese New Year's or Christmas fodder. She's going to be swapped for a light dark hero on Christmas or Chinese New Year's. If you look at the calendar for Heroic Scrolls, on Chinese New Year's, she will actually be, I think, the last hero possible to swap. Because technically there's going to be the way the Chinese New Year's lines up this year, it's on Valentine's Day or around the Valentine's Day week. So there is going to be one Heroic Scroll event before Chinese New Year's and after Christmas. So on Christmas, the last hero to swap is going to be Ignis. And then in January, there's going to be the last hero is Tix. And then on Chinese New Year's, Flora will be the last hero to be able to be swapped for that. So I do believe Flora, if you're going to scroll right now because you need to use scrolls for the keys that you bought for the VIP event, at least you have a fodder hero to swap right now for Chinese New Year's or Christmas. Because maybe the next two heroes are really, really strong and you're not going to want to swap them. So having a weaker hero in that sense could be good. But disappointing to this hero. I was actually looking forward to this hero a little bit. In the Discord channel, I was actually talking about, I was like, hey guys, do you guys remember what happened when we had an OP forest hero, and then a couple months later we had a forest hero get released a month early than expected? Hint, hint, wink, wink. Olivia? What did Olivia do? Did she put a dent in the meta? No. Was she super good in the meta? No. Was she all right? Yes. So I think that's kind of like what I looked at. I was like, okay, Gerudo was really good. Olivia was released early. Olivia was not as good as Gerudo. I was like, same thing's going to happen here. We got Rogan, who is like the OP hero meta definer right now. He is like run 3 of them right now, and he's in the meta. Like Rogan right now, it basically is the meta right now. And then you have a forest hero who was supposed to be a fortress hero this month, but ended up being a forest hero. And I was like, you know what, guys? Just looking at DH Games' pattern, forest hero early release after an OP forest hero, it's going to be not that good. And look at Flora, not that good. Only way for them to make her good is to buffer. I actually gave him my thoughts. I was like, Flora needs a massive bust to be useful in the PvP meta. Her twine chance is too low, and her basic dot isn't strong enough to justify her. I said this. I gave him my feedback. I talked to Carbon already. I gave him my feedback. Carbon came back to me and he was like, hey, bro, I've heard Flora running 3 of them with 3 Rogans is really good. I'm like, okay, well, is this another Oberon here where you need 3 of them? Because Oberon was not that good by himself. He was super, 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 super OP with 3 to 4 of them. But are people gonna go and invest 27 copies, whatever it is, to build 3 Flora? No, at least not right now. No one's going to be building 3 Flora at least until months down the road. Meta's going to be changed by then. Maybe she'll come back into usefulness, but don't know. So if you guys want to know, does this hero get the GDP stamp of approval? No. No, it does not. So catch you guys in the next video. No, I'm not going to show any PvP video footage because you know what? I don't think it's worth it. She's not worth it. Don't scroll for her if you don't want to use your scrolls. If you are going to use your scrolls, you're using them for Chinese New Year's or Christmas swap. So save onto your scrolls. See you guys in the next video.